What if you got a compliment from God Himself? Mark Twain is famous for saying that he could live 2 months on a good compliment. And that line always made me laugh because we resonate with it. We appreciate people's compliments, we think about them, it makes our day a little brighter. But if a compliment came from God, that would make it even more special, wouldn't it? Several times in the Bible, God gives a specific compliment to a specific person. And as we look at those, I think they can help us make our faith a little bit stronger. So I want to point out four compliments God gave in Scripture that hopefully we can learn from. Number one, God gave a compliment to Job. When Satan came before God in Job chapter 1, you remember what God said about him in Job 1, verse 8. He said to Satan, "Have you considered my servant Job? For there is no one like him on the earth, a blameless and upright man, fearing God and turning away from evil." Lots of good things in that verse. I want to notice the last section, turning away from evil. That's sure something we can learn from. I want God to look at my life and say that Tim is honestly trying to turn away from things that are bad and turn toward things that are good. God complimented that in Job. I want him to be able to compliment that in me. Second, God gave a compliment to Abraham, and it's echoed in James 2:23. He says that Abraham was called a friend of God. One of my best friends growing up would always say, that's the type of thing you want on your epitaph when you passed on from life, a friend of God. How do you get to be a friend of God? I think there's a closeness that's developed over time with God as you've gone through different experiences with the Lord, as you pray in life, as you worship in life, you get closer and closer to God. I want God to be able to say that about me, that we've developed closeness. That's something that's going to happen because I've intentionally taken those steps. God could call Abraham a friend. I hope he can say the same about me. Number three, God gave a compliment to David. In 1 Samuel 13, verse 14, one of the places, David is called a man after God's own heart. What does that mean? Be someone after God's own heart. I think it means that David really wanted to please God. He honestly wanted God to be able to look at him and be proud of his life. You probably have people in your life that you want to be proud of you. Make sure God's at the top of that list. As God looks at me, I don't want him to see someone who's just trying to please people, just trying to make people happy. But I want at the top of my life to be, I want God to be proud of who I am and what I'm trying to do for him. God gave David that compliment. Hope he can give it to us as well. And then number four, Jesus gave a compliment to a centurion in Matthew chapter 8. And I love this. The centurion has a servant who is paralyzed at home, and he's got the faith to come to Jesus for it. And Jesus says, okay, I'll come heal your servant. And the centurion starts saying, no, don't come to my house. I'm not worthy for you to come to my house. He says, I'm a person in authority and I tell soldiers what to do and they do it. Jesus, you could just say the word and I know my servant will be healed. And Jesus says in Matthew 8, verse 10, it says, when Jesus heard this, he marveled. How about that? Jesus marveled at his faith and said to those who were following, truly I say to you, I have not found such great faith with anyone in Israel. How awesome is that? For Jesus to say, I have not seen such great faith. What had the centurion done? He had brought his struggles to Jesus, knowing he could do something about it, trusting that he would do something about it. I want God to be able to say the same thing about me. I don't just try to figure out everything myself. I don't just try to stress about it, worry about it, but I bring it to God who can do something about it. Jesus said when he saw that in the centurion, I haven't seen such great faith. I want him to be able to say the same thing about us. What would God say about your life? What would God say about your faith? As I look at some of these people in the Bible, it just reminds me of some of the things that are good to shoot for. I want to turn away from evil. I want to be a friend of God. I want to be someone who is after God's own heart. I want to be a person of faith that brings everything to God. Let's do our best to make those qualities part of our life this week. If you're in the Memphis area, we would love to have you worship with us at the Great Oaks Church of Christ or come visit us. We are trying to follow Jesus Christ. We're trying to help each other follow Jesus Christ. We'd love for you to be part of that. Let us know if we can help you in any way. Till we see you again, let's live for Jesus this week.